First contact. The massive starship Odyssey drifted silently through the inky void, its gleaming hull reflecting the distant pinpricks of starlight. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the viewscreen before her. After 2 years of deep space exploration, they had finally found what they were looking for: signs of intelligent alien life. Status report, Elena commanded, her voice steady despite the excitement coursing through her veins. Lieutenant Commander Akira Tanaka's fingers flew across his console. The alien vessel is maintaining its position, Captain. No signs of aggressive movement or weapons charging. Elena nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Open a channel. Let's say hello to our new neighbors. As Akira worked to establish communication, Elena couldn't help but marvel at how far humanity had come. Just 50 years ago, faster than light travel had been a distant dream. Now, here they were, about to make first contact with an alien species on the fringes of known space. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything Elena had ever seen. Its body was vaguely humanoid, but covered in iridescent scales that shimmered with every movement. Multiple sets of eyes blinked at her from a face that seemed to be a blend of reptilian and avian features. "Greetings," Elena said, her voice clear and confident. "I am Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth exploration vessel Odyssey. We come in peace and friendship." The alien tilted its head, studying Elena with obvious curiosity. After a moment, it spoke, its voice a melodious trill that the ship's universal translator struggled to interpret. "We are the Zinfar," the alien said. "I am emissary Calix. Your presence here is unexpected." Elena's diplomatic training kicked in as she sensed the underlying tension in the alien's words. "We apologize if we intruded on your territory, emissary. Our mission is one of peaceful exploration and scientific discovery." Calix's eyes narrowed slightly. "You speak of peace, yet you travel in a vessel bristling with weapons. Curious, is it not?" Elena felt a bead of sweat form on her brow. This wasn't going as smoothly as she'd hoped. "The weapons are purely defensive, I assure you. The universe can be a dangerous place for explorers." The alien made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Indeed it can, Captain Rodriguez. Perhaps we should continue this discussion in person. Would you be willing to come aboard our vessel?" Elena hesitated. Protocol dictated caution in such situations, but the opportunity to set foot on an alien ship was too tempting to pass up. "We would be honored, emissary. Please allow us time to prepare a small delegation." As the communication ended, Elena turned to her senior staff. "Akira, you're with me. Dr. Amelia Chen, I want you there too. Your expertise in xenobiology could be crucial." As they made their way to the shuttle bay, Elena couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The Zinfar hadn't been openly hostile, but something about their demeanor set her on edge. She made a mental note to stay alert and ready for anything. The shuttle ride to the Zinfar vessel was tense, but uneventful. As they approached, Elena marveled at the alien ship's design. It was organic in appearance, almost like a living creature, with pulsing bioluminescent patterns rippling across its surface. They docked smoothly, and as the airlock cycled, Elena took a deep breath. "Remember," she said to her team, "we're representing all of humanity here. Let's make a good first impression." The inner door slid open, revealing a cavernous chamber filled with swirling mists. Calix stood waiting, flanked by several other Zinfar. "Welcome aboard the Nexus," the emissary said, gesturing with a multi-jointed arm. "Please, follow me." As they walked through the ship's winding corridors, Dr. Chen's eyes were wide with wonder. "The entire vessel seems to be a biomechanical construct," she whispered to Elena. "It's far beyond anything we've ever encountered." Elena nodded, equally impressed and slightly intimidated by the advanced technology surrounding them. They were led to what appeared to be a conference room, where holographic displays shimmered in the air. Calix took a seat, or rather, coiled its lower body into a resting position, and fixed Elena with an intense gaze. Now, Captain, perhaps you can explain in more detail what brings your people to this part of the galaxy. Elena launched into a prepared speech about humanity's quest for knowledge and desire for peaceful coexistence with other species. As she spoke, she noticed the Zenthar exchanging glances and making subtle gestures to each other. When she finished, Calix was silent for a long moment. "Your words are admirable, Captain Rodriguez, but we have heard similar platitudes from other species before. Actions, as I believe your people say, speak louder than words." Akira tensed beside her, his hand inching towards his sidearm. Elena shot him a warning glance before addressing Calix. "We understand your caution, emissary. What can we do to demonstrate our sincerity?" Calix's eyes seemed to gleam with an emotion Elena couldn't quite identify. "There is a system not far from here, rich in resources that are vital to both our peoples. We have begun to establish a colony there. Perhaps a joint mining operation would be a suitable test of our ability to coexist peacefully." Elena considered the proposal carefully. It could be a genuine offer of cooperation, or a ploy to gauge humanity's technological capabilities and intentions. "That's an intriguing suggestion, emissary. I would need to consult with my superiors before making any commitments, but I believe it's worth exploring further." The alien made a gesture that Elena interpreted as agreement. "Of course, we understand the need for deliberation. In the meantime, perhaps you would care for a tour of our vessel. I'm sure your scientific curiosity must be piqued." Dr. Chen practically vibrated with excitement at the prospect, but Elena remained cautious. "We would be honored, emissary, though I hope you'll understand if we refrain from sharing too much about our own technology at this stage." Calix's mouthparts twitched in what might have been amusement. "Naturally, Captain. Mutual trust takes time to develop. Shall we begin?" As they followed Calix deeper into the ship, Elena's mind raced. The encounter was going well on the surface, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more going on than met the eye. The Zenthar's advanced technology and strategic interests in nearby systems could make them valuable allies, or formidable adversaries. One thing was certain: humanity's first contact with an alien civilization was just the beginning of what promised to be a complex and potentially dangerous new chapter in human history. As Captain Elena Rodriguez led her team through the alien vessel, she steeled herself for the challenges that lay ahead, determined to navigate this cosmic diplomacy with all the skill and wisdom she could muster. Little did she know that the true test of humanity's resolve was yet to come, and that the consequences of this encounter would echo across the stars for generations to come. Rising tensions. 6 months after the initial encounter with the Zenthar, the joint mining operation on the resource-rich planet Novus Prime was well underway. The desert world's harsh landscape was now dotted with sprawling facilities where humans and Zenthar worked side by side, extracting valuable minerals from the planet's crust. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the viewport of the newly constructed command center, watching as a massive hauler lifted off, its cargo holds full of processed ore. Despite the outward appearance of cooperation, she couldn't shake the growing sense of unease that had been building over the past few weeks. "Captain, we've got a situation at Mine Site 3. Lieutenant Commander Akira Tanaka's voice crackled over the comm. "Another dispute between our crews and the Zenthar workers." Elena sighed, rubbing her temples. "I'm on my way. Alert Dr. Chen. We might need her cultural expertise on this one." As she made her way to the site, Elena reflected on the challenges they'd faced. What had started as a promising collaboration had become increasingly strained. Cultural misunderstandings, different work ethics, and conflicting priorities had led to a series of minor incidents that were slowly eroding the fragile trust between the two species. At Mine Site 3, she found a tense standoff between a group of human miners and their Zenthar counterparts. Dr. Emilia Chen was already there, trying to mediate. "What seems to be the problem here?" Elena asked, her voice carrying the weight of authority. A burly human miner named Jack stepped forward. "Captain, these lizards keep messing with our equipment. They say we're inefficient, but their methods are going to get someone killed. The lead Zinthar worker, Shriltak, bristled at the insult. Your primitive techniques waste time and resources. We merely seek to optimize the operation. Elena held up her hands. Enough. We're all here to work together, not fight over methodologies. Dr. Chen, can you help us find a compromise? As Amelia worked to smooth things over, Elena pulled Akira aside. This is the third incident this week. Something's got to give. Akira nodded grimly. It's not just here, Captain. I've been monitoring communications from other joint operations across the sector. Similar tensions are rising everywhere humans and Zinthar are working together. Before Elena could respond, her comm unit buzzed. Captain Rodriguez, your presence is requested in the main conference room. Emissary Collix has arrived and wishes to speak with you urgently. Elena's stomach tightened. An unscheduled visit from the Zinthar diplomat couldn't be good news. I'm on my way. Akira, stay here and make sure this situation doesn't escalate further. As she hurried back to the command center, Elena's mind raced. The mining operation had been productive, but at what cost? The cultural divide between humans and Zinthar seemed to be widening with each passing day. She entered the conference room to find Collix already there, his iridescent scales shimmering under the harsh lighting. Emissary, this is an unexpected pleasure. What brings you to Novus Prime? Collix's multiple eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made Elena's skin crawl. Captain Rodriguez, I'm afraid I bring troubling news. Our leaders have expressed concerns about the nature of our partnership. Elena steeled herself. What kind of concerns, emissary? There have been reports of human ships venturing into systems that the Zinthar consider to be under our protection. Your people's rapid expansion is causing alarm among our military commanders. Elena frowned. We've adhered to all agreed-upon boundaries. If there have been incursions, I assure you they were unintentional. Collix made a gesture that Elena had come to recognize as skepticism. Perhaps, but there are also whispers of humans sharing advanced technology with other species that the Zinthar have long considered problematic. That's absurd, Elena protested. We've been nothing but transparent in our dealings with your people. Have you? Collix's voice took on a dangerous edge. Then perhaps you can explain the increased militarization of your colonies in this sector, or the sudden interest your scientists have shown in Zinthar biotechnology. Elena felt her face flush with anger. We have every right to protect our people and pursue scientific knowledge. If the Zinthar see that as a threat, perhaps it's time to reevaluate the terms of our alliance. The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Finally, Collix spoke, his voice eerily calm. I had hoped it wouldn't come to this, Captain. But it seems our peoples are on a collision course. The Zinthar High Council has issued an ultimatum. Humanity must cease all expansion in this sector and submit to Zinthar oversight of your technological development. Failure to comply will be seen as an act of aggression. Elena's mind reeled at the implications. That's completely unacceptable. Humanity won't be bullied or coerced. Emissary, we came here in peace, but we'll defend our rights and our people if necessary. Collix's eyes narrowed. Choose your next moves carefully, Captain Rodriguez. The Zinthar have encountered many species in our long history. Those who refuse to see reason are no longer among the stars. With that ominous warning, the emissary swept out of the room, leaving Elena alone with the weight of an impending interstellar crisis on her shoulders. She immediately opened a secure channel to Earth Command, her voice tight with urgency. This is Captain Rodriguez. We have a situation developing with the Zinthar. I recommend immediate mobilization of the fleet and evacuation of vulnerable colonies. We may be looking at full-scale conflict in the near future. As she waited for a response, Elena gazed out at the bustling mining operation below. What had started as a dream of peaceful cooperation now teetered on the brink of war. She thought of all the human lives under her protection, not just on Novus Prime, but across dozens of newly established colonies in the sector. The Zinthar's ultimatum was impossible to accept, but the alternative could mean the destruction of everything humanity had worked so hard to achieve. As the gravity of the situation settled over her, Elena knew that the coming days would test the limits of human resilience, ingenuity, and determination. Little did she know that the true extent of the Zinthar's plans and the depths of humanity's resolve were yet to be revealed. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see how this cosmic drama would unfold. Alien aggression. The following weeks were a blur of frantic activity as humanity prepared for the looming conflict. Captain Elena Rodriguez found herself at the center of a storm, coordinating evacuation efforts while simultaneously fortifying key positions across the sector. On Novus Prime, the once bustling mining operation had transformed into a military staging ground. Human and Zinthar workers alike had been evacuated, replaced by grim-faced soldiers and automated defense systems. Elena stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of both human and Zinthar forces throughout the sector. The room was filled with the low hum of tense voices and beeping consoles. "Status report," she barked, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. Lieutenant Commander Akira Tanaka's voice was tight with stress. "The last civilian transports are away, Captain. We've got skeleton crews maintaining essential operations on our most defensible colonies. The fleet is in position, but we're outnumbered at least 3-1. Elena nodded grimly. Despite their best efforts, humanity had been caught off guard by the speed and scale of the Zinthar mobilization, and still no response to our attempts at diplomatic resolution. Dr. Amelia Chen, now serving as their xenobiological warfare expert, shook her head. "Nothing but silence, Captain. It's as if they've written off any possibility of peaceful coexistence." Before Elena could respond, alarms blared throughout the command center. Akira's hands flew across his console. Multiple Zinthar vessels dropping out of FTL. They're launching fighters, and, oh God! The main view screen lit up with a horrifying sight. A massive Zinthar dreadnought, easily twice the size of anything humanity had encountered before, materialized at the edge of the system. Its biomechanical surface pulsed with ominous energy. "All hands, battle stations," Elena shouted, her training kicking in despite the fear clutching at her heart. "This is not a drill. Initiate Defense Protocol Alpha." The next hours were a hellish blur of chaos and destruction. The Zinthar attack was relentless, their superior numbers and advanced technology overwhelming human defenses across multiple systems simultaneously. On Novus Prime, Elena and her team fought desperately to coordinate their forces and protect as many lives as possible. The sky above the planet was filled with the fiery streaks of orbital bombardment and the explosions of dogfighting spacecraft. "We've lost contact with Outpost Sigma," Akira reported, his voice hoarse from hours of non-stop combat coordination. "Colonies on Arcturus II and Proxima I are reporting heavy casualties. Captain, we can't hold them off much longer." Elena's hands gripped the edge of the tactical display, her knuckles white. She had known the odds were against them, but the sheer ferocity of the Zinthar assault was beyond anything she had imagined. It wasn't just a war. It was an attempt at extermination. "Dr. Chen, any progress on countermeasures against their biotech weapons?" Elena asked, desperately seeking any advantage. Emilia looked up from her workstation, her eyes red-rimmed from exhaustion. "We're close to a breakthrough on their neural disruptors, but it's not enough. Their adaptability is unlike anything we've ever seen. It's as if their entire fleet is a single, evolving organism." A violent tremor shook the command center as a Zinthar bombardment struck dangerously close. Sparks flew from overloaded consoles, and the acrid smell of smoke filled the air. "Structural integrity at 62% and falling," a computerized voice announced calmly. "Estimated time to critical failure, 18 minutes. Elena's mind raced. They couldn't win this battle. Not here, not now. But if they could buy enough time, Perhaps the evacuated colonies and the remnants of the fleet could regroup, find a way to fight back. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she knew had to be done. Initiate Operation Firewall. We're going to give the Zinthar a surprise they won't forget. Akira's eyes widened in shock. Captain, that's a last resort measure. The collateral damage will be significant, Alina finished grimly. But it's our only chance to slow them down and give our people a fighting chance. Do it. As Akira reluctantly began the activation sequence, Alina opened a channel to all remaining human forces in the sector. This is Captain Alina Rodriguez. To all ships and ground forces, fall back to Rally Point Omega. Repeat, fall back to Rally Point Omega. We'll buy you as much time as we can. She turned to her loyal crew, seeing the mix of fear and determination in their eyes. It's been an honor serving with all of you. Whatever happens next, know that your sacrifice will give humanity a chance to survive. The command center shook again, more violently this time. Warning klaxons blared as systems began to fail across the board. Operation Firewall is armed and ready, Akira reported, his finger hovering over the activation key. Alina took one last look at the tactical display, watching as the Zinthar forces closed in around them. She thought of Earth, of all the human colonies fighting for survival across the stars. In that moment, she felt the weight of billions of lives on her shoulders. For humanity, she whispered, then nodded to Akira. Do it. The lieutenant commander pressed the key, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Then, a blinding light filled the view screen as a cascade of experimental quantum devices detonated across the Novus Prime system. The fabric of space-time itself seemed to warp and tear, creating a maelstrom of energy that engulfed both human and Zinthar ships alike. The command center sensors overloaded, plunging them into darkness broken only by the strobing of emergency lights. As the shockwave approached, Alina closed her eyes, hoping that their sacrifice would give humanity the chance it needed to regroup, to find a way to survive the Zinthar onslaught. The last thing she heard before consciousness faded was the tortured screech of metal as the command center began to break apart around them. In the chaos of Operation Firewall's aftermath, no one, human or Zinthar, could have predicted the far-reaching consequences of that desperate act. As the quantum storm raged across the Novus Prime system, it set in motion a chain of events that would reshape the very nature of the conflict and test the limits of both species in ways neither could have imagined. The battle for humanity's survival had only just begun, and the true test of human ingenuity and determination lay ahead in the uncertain future that awaited them among the stars. Human counterattack. In the aftermath of Operation Firewall, the galaxy held its breath. The quantum storm that had engulfed the Novus Prime system had torn a hole in space-time, creating a temporary barrier that neither human nor Zinthar forces could penetrate. For weeks, the rest of humanity waited in tense silence, mourning their losses and preparing for the next phase of the war. Admiral Jahan Kauri stood on the bridge of the Earth's newest flagship, the Phoenix, named in honor of humanity's determination to rise from the ashes of near defeat. His weathered face was illuminated by the glow of holographic displays showing the status of the hastily assembled human fleet. "Status report," he commanded, his voice steady despite the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. A young lieutenant responded crisply. "The quantum barrier around Novus Prime is showing signs of dissipation. Sir, estimated collapse in T-minus 30 minutes. Jahan nodded grimly. "And our new weapon systems." Dr. Amelia Chen, one of the few survivors from Novus Prime who had been rescued from an escape pod, stepped forward. "The reverse-engineered Zinthar biotech is integrated and operational, Admiral. It's not perfect, but it should give us an edge we didn't have before." The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. In the weeks following the Novus Prime incident, humanity had poured every available resource into analyzing the Zinthar technology they'd managed to salvage. The result was a hybrid system that combined human ingenuity with alien biomechanics, creating weapons and defenses unlike anything either species had used before. "Very well," Jahan said, straightening his uniform. "Send the signal. All ships, prepare for Operation Phoenix Rising." As the fleet moved into position, tension filled the air. This was humanity's last, best hope. If they failed here, Earth and all her colonies would fall to the Zinfar onslaught. The minutes ticked by agonizingly slowly until finally, the quantum barrier flickered and collapsed. The view screen lit up with the chaos of the Novus Prime system. Debris from both human and Zinfar ships floated eerily in the void, a grim testament to the battle that had raged weeks ago. "Zinfar vessels detected," the tactical officer shouted. "They're moving to secure the system." Jahan's eyes narrowed. "Not this time. All ships, execute attack pattern Omega. Let's show these aliens what happens when you back humanity into a corner." The human fleet surged forward, catching the Zinfar by surprise. The Phoenix led the charge, its new hybrid weapons blazing. Beams of energy infused with biomechanical properties lanced out, bypassing Zinfar shields as if they weren't even there. On the Zinfar command ship, emissary Collix watched in shock as the humans counterattacked with unexpected ferocity. "Impossible," he hissed. "How did they adapt our technology so quickly?" The space around Novus Prime erupted into a furious battle. Human ships, though still outnumbered, fought with a combination of desperate courage and technological innovation that caught the Zinfar off guard. Aboard the Phoenix, Admiral Cowrie coordinated the assault with precision. Group Alpha pushed through their left flank. "Beta Squadron, I want those cruisers taken out." "Dr. Chen, how are our bioshields holding?" Amelia's fingers flew across her console. "Better than expected, Admiral. The Zinfar weapons are having trouble penetrating, but we're putting a lot of strain on the systems. I'm not sure how long we can maintain this level of performance." Jahan nodded grimly. "It doesn't have to hold forever, just long enough." As the battle raged on, it became clear that the tables had turned. The Zinfar, so confident in their technological superiority, found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned by the very weapons they had developed. Hours passed, and slowly but surely the tide began to turn. Zinfar ships, unable to counter the hybrid human weapons, began to fall back. The Phoenix pressed the advantage, leading a charge straight for the heart of the alien fleet. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "the Zinfar command ship is vulnerable. We have a clear shot." Jahan hesitated for just a moment. This was the chance to strike a decisive blow, but at what cost? He thought of all the lives lost, of the colonies burned, of Earth trembling in fear of alien invasion. "Take the shot," he ordered, his voice firm. The Phoenix's main cannon, a marvel of human and Zinfar technology, powered up. A beam of blinding energy lanced out, tearing through space and striking the Zinfar flagship with unerring accuracy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, in a spectacular display of light and destruction, the massive alien vessel began to break apart. A cheer went up throughout the human fleet as they watched their greatest enemy fall. But Admiral Cowrie remained focused. "All ships, press the attack. Don't let up until we've secured the system." The remaining Zinfar vessels, leaderless and outmatched, began a hasty retreat. Within hours, the Novus Prime system was back under human control. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Jahan allowed himself a moment of reflection. They had won a great victory today, but the war was far from over. The Zinfar would regroup, adapt, and return. But now, humanity had proven that they were not to be underestimated. "Send word to Earth and all our colonies," he instructed his communications officer. "Novus Prime is ours again." The counterattack was successful. As the message was relayed, a palpable sense of hope spread throughout the fleet. They had faced extinction and emerged victorious. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them with renewed determination and the knowledge that they could stand against any threat that galaxy might throw at them. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter as the Phoenix and its fleet secured their hard-won victory, a beacon of hope for a species that had come so close to the brink of annihilation. But even as they celebrated, Admiral Curry knew that this was just the beginning. The true test of humanity's resolve was yet to come, as they faced the long and arduous task of rebuilding what was lost and preparing for the battles that surely lay ahead. Resolution and reflection. The war with the Zinthar had raged for nearly 2 years, a conflict that had pushed humanity to the very brink of extinction and forced them to evolve in ways they never thought possible. Now, as the dust settled on the final battle, representatives from both species gathered on neutral ground, a space station orbiting a gas giant in unclaimed territory. Admiral Jahan Kari, his uniform crisp despite the weariness etched on his face, stood at the head of the human delegation. Across the table, emissary colleagues led the Zinthar contingent, his iridescent scales dulled by the toll of war. The room was tense, filled with the weight of countless lives lost and worlds scarred by conflict. Dr. Amelia Chen, now humanity's foremost expert on Zinthar biology and culture, sat to Jahan's right, her presence a testament to the understanding that had been hard-won through years of bitter struggle. "We are gathered here," began the neutral mediator, a member of an ancient spacefaring race known for their diplomacy, to negotiate terms for a lasting peace between humanity and the Zinthar Concordat. Jahan leaned forward, his voice steady. "Before we begin, I believe it's crucial that we address the root causes of this conflict. Only by understanding each other can we hope to forge a peace that will endure." Kalix's multiple eyes blinked in what Jahan had come to recognize as agreement. "Your words have wisdom, Admiral. Perhaps if we had sought understanding earlier, much suffering could have been avoided." Over the next several hours, both sides laid bare their grievances, fears, and hopes. The Zinthar spoke of their ancient history, of threats they had faced that drove them to view expansion as the only means of survival. Humanity shared their dreams of exploration and growth, their desire to forge their own path among the stars. As the discussions progressed, it became clear that both species had more in common than they had ever realized. Both had faced existential threats, both valued survival and progress, and both had shown remarkable adaptability in the face of challenges. "It seems," Dr. Chen observed during a break in the negotiations, "that our greatest strengths and our greatest flaws are mirrors of each other. Our capacity for violence, but also our ability to innovate and overcome." Jahan nodded thoughtfully. "And perhaps that's the key to lasting peace, not trying to change each other, but recognizing our similarities and learning to work together." When the negotiations resumed, a new spirit of cooperation began to emerge. The Zinthar, impressed by humanity's resilience and ingenuity, proposed joint scientific ventures. Humanity, having seen the marvels of Zinthar biotechnology, eagerly agreed. "We propose," Kalix announced, "the establishment of a joint research facility in the Novus Prime system, a place where our scientists can work together, combining the best of both our technologies for the benefit of all." Jahan felt a surge of hope. "We accept and offer to expand this cooperation to include cultural exchanges. Let our people learn from each other so that we never again fall into the trap of fearing what we don't understand." As the final terms of the peace treaty were hammered out, both delegations felt a sense of cautious optimism. Borders were redrawn, trade agreements were established, and protocols for future diplomatic relations were put in place. When at last the treaty was signed, a palpable sense of relief filled the room. It wasn't a perfect solution. There were still wounds that would take generations to heal. But it was a start. As the delegations prepared to depart, Jahan approached Kalix. "Emissary," he said, extending his hand in the human gesture of peace, "I hope that one day our peoples will look back on this moment as the beginning of a great alliance." Kalix regarded the outstretched hand for a moment before reaching out with his own multi-jointed limb to grasp it. "As do I, Admiral. The stars are vast, and the challenges they present are greater than any single species can face alone. Months later, Jahan stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Joint Research Facility orbiting Novus Prime. Below, the planet was slowly healing, its scars fading as new life took root. Human and Xenthar scientists worked side by side, their combined knowledge already yielding breakthroughs that would benefit both species. Dr. Chen joined him, her eyes bright with excitement over a recent discovery. "It's remarkable," she said, "how much we've learned from each other in such a short time. The Xenthar bioengineering techniques, combined with our quantum physics, we're on the verge of cracking faster-than-light communication." Jahan smiled, feeling a sense of pride and hope that he hadn't experienced since before the war. And to think, not long ago, we were trying to destroy each other. Now look at us, partners in exploring the universe. As they watched a Xenthar ship dock alongside a human vessel, Jahan reflected on the long, painful journey that had brought them to this point. The war had cost both species dearly, but from those ashes, something new and powerful had emerged. "We still have a long way to go," he mused, "but I believe we're on the right path. Humanity has always dreamed of reaching the stars. Now, with the Xenthar as our allies, there's no limit to what we might achieve." Dr. Chen nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It's a new era for both our species. We've proven that we can overcome our darkest impulses, that we can learn and grow. Whatever challenges the universe has in store for us, we'll face them together." As the station rotated, bringing the vast expanse of space into view, Jahan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The war had shown the galaxy why one should never underestimate humans, their resilience, their adaptability, their unwavering spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. But it had also taught humanity a valuable lesson about the importance of understanding and cooperation. The stars twinkled in the distance, each one a potential new adventure, a new challenge to overcome. And now, with their newfound allies at their side, humanity was ready to embrace that future, stronger and wiser than ever before. The story of humanity's clash with the Xenthar would be told for generations to come, a cautionary tale, but also one of hope. It would remind future explorers that in the vast, often hostile expanse of space, the ability to forge understanding from conflict could be the greatest strength of all. As Jahan turned to leave the observation deck, he took one last look at the stars. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity had earned its place among the cosmos, and they would never again be underestimated.